Good morning. Don't you look swell today? Actually, swollen.
Oh,
So have some. There's a fresh pot on the table. Seriously, you look like hell. Your hair is sticking straight up like a... Oh, it always does that. Never mind.
ha, ha.
Did you dream about the fire and the hang guy and that lion thing last night?
Leopard, not lion. Did you get anything on Malia Getty?
Well, I did get her address, but you're a little out of your league here, big fella. The Gettys own 3 local hospitals, just to name a few of their assets. They run in very high circles.
Did you get an address?
I got the address. I suppose this has nothing to do with the fact that Malia Getty is incredibly gorgeous. I should have known you wouldn't go for a rich, ugly socialite.
And that address is...
Hey, far be it from me to postpone your total humiliation. It's 557 West England. That's a garden district, a state city.
That's all I wanted to know. And yes, my dear, Malia Getty is the most dangerous-looking diversion I've ever seen. Ouch!
Ay, men.
Today's newspaper is on the counter. Times-Picayune, dated June 19, 1993. A front-page article describes the most recent of the voodoo murders. Gabriel scans it but learns not anew. The article reiterates that the voodoo aspect of the crimes is fake. Gabriel shivers. It looked real enough to him. Elsewhere, there's an article about the history of Jackson Square. Called La Plaza d'Armas. Under French rule, it was used for executions, firing squads, hanging, even impalement and breaking on the wheel. Yikes! Of course, these days it's mostly a hangout for tourists, street musicians and local artists. Gabriel also scans the Aquarius horoscope for the day. Chances of a dark star rising on this day. Do not trust your instincts.
I feel a dark star rising, all right. I'm out of here. Try not to sell out the store while I'm gone.
Uh-huh.
Gabriel cannot open or close that. A small boy is tap dancing enthusiastically for a lucky dog vendor. The vendor ignores him. The lucky dog vendor has his nose buried in a paperback novel. Gabriel noticed that it is not, big surprise, one of his. Interrogating the little boy wouldn't be...
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yep, I mind all right.
Why?
Because A, I don't know anything, and B, I'm busy.
Oh.
And artists is taking advantage of the fine weather.
Could I ask you some questions?
I'd rather not. I really get focused when I'm drawing.
Okay, fine.
The juggler is busy. The juggler looks like a beginner practicing he act. A lone drummer beats out a haunting rhythm on a large African drum. Gabriel can There is nothing to operate there.
Welcome, my friend.
Hello?
I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name is Knight, and I'll probably take you up on that. Could I ask you some questions?
That is why I am here.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo, or the voodoo currently practiced in the city?
What can you tell
Histor-
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade, but African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively. The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importing of slaves from that region.
So, how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
What happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr. Knight, if only in the form of a communal bond. Among the first meeting places were the Bayou St. John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated times. The time was Sunday afternoons and the place Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight. Look around the museum if you desire more information.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or gree-gree. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo and is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapidly. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and there are many in their religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I, personally, am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo. But it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Tell me more about current voodoo.
There are many voodooians in New Orleans. They often do business selling gree-gree, telling fortunes, providing luck, and, occasionally, misfortune. Perhaps you would like to meet a voodooan. We refer those who seek a deeper experience with voodoo to a local practitioner, Magentia Moonbeam.
Sure, I'd love to meet her.
She lives on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine. I will call her and tell her you might stop by.
Great, thanks. Tell me more about current voodoo.
You have tapped my resources. My expertise is really historical. Perhaps Ms. Moonbeam can be of further help.
What exactly is hoodoo?
Hoodoo refers to magic folk traditions of the South. Hoodoo is a bastard of voodoo. Many of the gree-gree are similar, but hoodoo does not have the religious aspects of voodoo.
Is there anything else I should know about hoodoo?
Not if your interest is primarily in voodoo. Hoodoo is of interest to those who study rural folk traditions, but it will not aid you in understanding true voodoo.
Is there anything else I should know about hoodoo?
Not if you're...
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper? I know that they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
What makes you think the voodoo murders aren't being done by local practitioners?
Voodoo is a popular boogeyman, Mr. Knight, especially in New Orleans. Anyone can pretend to use it, just as anyone can pretend to be a black belt in karate, and for the same reason, to intimidate. I know voodoo in this city, Mr. Knight, and believe me, it is not about killing. Even the police have stated that the killings have nothing to do with local voodoo.
So you know nothing about the voodoo murders case?
I neither know nor care to know, Mr. Knight. My only possible interest is in how it might affect the public's attitude towards the museum. So far, it has not been an issue. No one has even had the bad taste to bring it up. Until you, that is.
What do you think of New Orleans?
It is the only city in the United States as far as I am concerned.
What is it about New Orleans that you so admire?
It has a real culture of its own, Mr. Knight, amid the horrid blandness that is Americana. New Orleans alone has a voice.
Spoken like a true New Orleanian. Do you have anything else to say about New Orleans?
I have already given you my opinion, Mr. Knight.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
It is one of the important ceremonial nights in voodoo.
What else can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I am afraid I do not know the origins of St. John's Eve. I only know that it was a night of ritual long before voodoo came to New Orleans.
What else can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I am afraid I have little else to say about that subject.
Do you have any idea what Cabri Saint Cor means?
I fear my French is not all it should be, Mr. Knight.
You're sure you haven't heard the term Cabri Saint Cor?
I am sure, Mr. Knight.
You're...
I am...
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
There were actually two Marie Laveaux, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire. When the Widow Paris began to practice, there were many Voodooans in the city. By 1830, she was Voodoo Queen of all New Orleans.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Widow Paris was a hairdresser for rich Creole ladies. She also paid household servants to spy for her. Between the two, she knew everything about everyone who mattered in New Orleans. She was not above using her information to appear psychic, to intimidate, or even to blackmail.
You sound as though you admire her.
For a black woman in the mid-1800s to gain power is an incredible thing, Mr. Knight, however she achieved it.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
She kept a pet snake, danced with it too. She held traditional voodoo ceremonies out by the lake. She took herself seriously, very seriously. But she was not above selling tickets for her events to curiosity seekers. She was not above using voodoo any way she could to make money, that is for certain. But if she had been in another line of work, in another age, that would have been interpreted as entrepreneurial genius rather than a sign of fraudulence.
Hey, you don't need to convince me. I admire anyone that can actually make a living. Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
It was Marie Laveau who defined the voodoo that is truly and uniquely the voodoo of New Orleans. She invented hundreds, if not thousands of spells, potions, charms, and incantations. These form the basis of the modern practice, not to mention the folk tradition of hoodoo.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
Her daughter, Marie Glapion, took over when the Widow Paris got old. Most people thought it was the same Marie Laveau. Both Maries encouraged that point of view. The Widow Paris died in 1881. Marie Glapion had been reigning a long time by then. After the death of the Widow Paris, other voodoo queens surfaced, and by 1890, the cult was fragmented again. Marie Glapion just sort of faded away.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Laveau tomb, where one or both of the Maries are believed to be buried, is in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. It is a popular shrine for practitioners and tourists alike. I myself take tours through the cemetery on a regular basis.
Really? Do you have any running this week?
No, but the cemetery is open to the general public as well.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
You have heard everything about Marie Laveau that a layman might expect to understand.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I have not.
Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us say that I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No. The museum does not make me a rich man, but my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
Just tell me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Just tell me anything.
I am a vegetarian.
Really? I can't imagine living without meat.
That must be the hunter in you, Mr. Knight.
Actually,
Then, let...
Could I ask you some more questions?
Of course. I also find our dialogue stimulating.
Tell me about yourself.
What more can I tell you?
Just tell me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Actually, I can't think of a thing.
Then, let us discuss something else.
Is there
No, hoodoo.
Gabriel has no interest in the noisy fan at the moment. The little coffin is empty. The doorway is already open.
I'll be going.
Goodbye, Mr. Knight.
Hello?
Bonjour, Monsieur Walker.
Oh, bienvenue, Madame Casino. Comment ça va? How you be feeling today?
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Walker, I'm certain someone's buried a slip-knot bag somewhere near my steps. I haven't slept a wink in weeks.
Oh, don't that beat all? Well, you're gonna need some easy night candles then.
Do you think that would help? I do hope you're right. I said 3 rosaries this morning for Our Lady's intervention.
Rosaries are good, sure enough. But you burn those candles too, and you gonna whip any old no-sleep gree-gree, I tell you for sure.
Very well, Mr. Walker. Put them on my account and send them round to my house. Oh, and there's another thing. I didn't catch her at it, but I know Mrs. Lefebvre put stomachache powder in my tea at the last meeting of the Creole Grand Dames. Oh, I've been in misery.
You put 9 pinheads up in a little box, add a pinch of graveyard dust, and put it under her front porch step. That'll turn the trick back on Mrs. Lefevre, and she'll be the one with the bellyache. I have the pins and the dust. Right here if you want 'em.
If the Blessed Virgin will grant me her protection, I'll be safe from these practitioners of evil.
Oui, madame. Though it don't hurt to be proactive none neither. Now does it?
Naturellement, monsieur. Merci beaucoup.
Mais non, madame. It is nothing. Au revoir.
Au revoir, Monsieur Walker.
Can I ask you just a few more questions?
Whatever, man.
Have you ever heard of Marie Laveau?
Marie, she's somebody from the old days. One of those folk tales. Oh, the tourists eat it up, non?
Have you ever heard of Marie Laveau?
I don't know much, monsieur. Someone at the Voodoo Museum can tell you all about her.
That customer of yours, the little old lady?
Customer?
The woman I saw in here. Madame Cazeneuve, you called her.
I don't talk about my customers to men who come in off the street.
It's important that I talk to Madame Cazeneuve. You see, I'm doing some research and...
I can't tell you anything about her.
To get the mask, Gabriel would have to buy it.
Gabriel, come in.
Hi, Gran.
Make yourself at home, son.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Marie Laveau. Of course! She was that voodoo woman, wasn't she? She preyed on people's fears and superstitions is what I think. There are always those willing to take other people's money for nothing. You stay away from people like that, Gabriel.
Yes, Gran. Do you know anything about...
I don't know what else to tell you, dear.
Granny might get worried if Gabriel started rambling to thin air.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
Welcome, Seeker. You must be the one Dr. John called me about.
I guess so. My name is...
Wait, Gabriel Knight?
You're too quick for me.
Actually, Dr. John told me. You have come to the right place, Mr. Knight. Tell me how I can help.
The Moonbeam residence looks like a cross between a voodoo temple and a Victorian fortune teller's parlor by way of Haight Street. A large crystal ball is prominently displayed. Magentia's bottles probably contain secret ritual concoctions. It's a large cluster of quartz crystals. The Moonbeam residence looks like a cross between a large sluggish snake rests on the floor of the fancy bird cage. Apparently, Magenta is not a fastidious housekeeper. A shed skin shares the cage with its original owner. Magentia's snakes looks a little sickly, but Gabriel would still rather not stick his hand in the cage.
No thanks. I'll just leave it right where it is.
The Magenta Moonbeam is wrapped in gauze and silks. She looks vaguely mysterious and mysteriously vague.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Of course, Seeker.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
My practice is mainly selling charms and potions with magic power, such as gree-gree and voodoo. You know, everything from unrequited love to wandering spouses to winning a lawsuit. But my spells and charms are powerful, and they work.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Much of a voodoo yen's work is protecting her clients from the spell of others. I make special protective gree-gree to be worn in secret. They keep evil spells from working against my clients.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
The recipes for voodoo charms have been handed down from master to apprentice for centuries.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
I have told you all it is proper for you to know, Monsieur Knight.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Why, that has nothing to do with me and my clientele. But I can tell you that you should stay as far from it as possible. There is badness there, very bad.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans is the center of voodoo practice in the United States.
So you don't think the voodoo aspects of the case are fake?
Fake? Let me tell you about fake. If I get information through the grapevine and make use of it, is that fake? No, that is part of a voodoo yen's power. If people don't believe, there is not much I can do. But if they do believe, that is a part of my power too. But there are things, monsieur, things not even a little bit fake, I can tell you. Believe it or not, but stay away from it.
What do you mean? Do you know something about the case?
I work hard on fine-tuning my spiritual antenna, Monsieur Knight, and I get a clear signal from that direction. Beware.
What do you mean? Do you know something about the case?
I work hard on fine-tuning my spiritual antenna, Monsieur Knight, and I get a clear signal from that direction. Beware.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
It is a fascinating city with many dark secrets.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
It is my favorite place in the world.
What's the significance of St. John's Eve?
St. John's Eve? It is the greatest night of the voodoo year. There is always a traditional conclave on St. John's Eve. Most of our voodoo churches these days hold functions in the church hall. But in the old days, they had ceremonies out in the wild, and they wore animal masks and had a huge bonfire and dancing. I used to go when I was an apprentice. Sometimes in the swamp, you know, Bayou St. John. Sometimes at the lake, Lake Pontchartrain.
What's the significance of St. John's Eve?
Special ceremonies are performed, and the lower come to ride the faithful.
What's the significance of St. John's Eve?
There is no night more powerful to voodoo magic.
What's the significance of St. John's Eve?
There is no night more powerful to voodoo magic.
Do you have any idea what Caprice sans cœur means?
No. No, I don't.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Oh, yes, she was the first of the great voodoo queens.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
She ruled voodoo in New Orleans for 100 years, they say.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
I'm sure a historian could help you with that, if you want to know more.
Tell me about the animal masks.
I saw them used once or twice when I was younger, but you don't see them much anymore. They are too close.
Too close to what?
Just bad karma.
Tell me about the animal masks.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Have you ever heard the word Schottenjäger?
I don't know anything about that.
Tell me about yourself.
Yes? What would you like to hear?
How'd you get into this business?
I trained in the voodoo arts for many years with the great Queen Tabitha.
Really? Who's she?
You have never heard of her? For shame! I can see you know little of the world of magic.
I'm beginning to get that impression, yes. What kind of people come to see you?
Seekers after the truth, such as yourself.
Do you do anything else?
I am a voodoo yen, and that is plenty. It takes much spiritual effort.
How many voodoo yens are there?
No one knows exactly. Many practice in secret. There are probably hundreds. But of course the level and the power of the voodoo yens differ greatly, depending on their training and natural gifts.
Tell me anything at all.
I haven't always lived in New Orleans. I came here from Kansas as a young woman.
Tell me anything at all.
I began studying voodoo more than 20 years ago. I am well versed in the magical art.
Tell me anything at all.
Many non-believers come to me. They are usually believers when they leave.
Tell me anything at all.
Dr. John sends me many seekers such as yourself.
Tell me.
I am happy here with my clientele and my snake.
I can't.
Very well.
Have you ever heard the...
I don't know.
Give me an example of a gris-gris.
All right. Here's an old one. Take a lodestone and some brimstone to a crossroads at midnight. Light the brimstone with a match, and a spirit will come and give you advice in gambling.
Give me an example of a gris-gris.
Here's an old hoodoo Dr. Gree-Gree. Place a dime under your client's tongue, and if the client is under a spell of any kind, the dime will turn black.
Give me an example of a gris-gris.
To send someone away, take a rotten egg and write that person's name on it 9 times. You can also write on it where you want to send that person to. Take it and throw it against his door at midnight.
Give me an example of a gris-gris.
Here's a nasty one. To kill someone, get a sock or a shoe that belongs to that person. Put graveyard dirt in it and bury it under their front steps.
Does that work?
I don't know. I never tried it.
Give me an example of a gris-gris.
To ensure the safety of your child, cut a lock of its hair while it is still a baby and keep it with you. The child must have all its hair before it can die.
These are interesting.
They're very old. The gree-gree that I prepare is much more powerful, I can assure you, but I don't give out those secrets.
Give me an
All right.
There's nothing to use the tweezers on there. There's nothing. Gabriel can see that. Gabriel can see. Gabriel can see that.
Does this mean anything to you?
I can...
Could you look at this and tell me if you recognize anything about it?
That's from those voodoo murders, isn't it? That has nothing to do with me.
Dr. John tells me you're a voodoo practitioner of some kind.
Yes, I am a voodoo yen, a voodoo priestess. As you wish.
Gabriel, come in.
Hi, Gran.
Make yourself at home, son.
I'm going up the attic again.
Enjoy yourself, dear.
The trunk, some old,
Aren't those
see,
just what I...
and a bundle of. There's a sketch. There's a sketchbook on the chair that Gabriel vaguely remembers as his father's.
I think I'll take Daddy's sketchbook with me.
Images haunt the pages of Philip Knight's sketchbook, the way they must have haunted his mind. Images haunt the images touch a deep chord in Gabriel. So familiar are they that he finds it hard to believe they aren't from his own subconscious.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
Let me try to get this down.
Gabriel's already... It's very large grass. There doesn't seem... There... 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 Those two are... There's nothing... It's very large grass. It's very... It's very large grass. It's very... It's very large grass. It's extremely... It's extreme... It's very... Patches of grass have managed... Patches of grass... Patches of... Patches of... Patches of... Gabriel is on the site. Patches of... Patches of... Gabriel. The site is now deserted. There seems to be a... But if there is a pattern... Gabriel. The site is... Out. The site. Gabriel. The site is now... Gabriel. The site. Gabriel. The site. Patches of grass. The grass has a matted appearance there. There are marks in the grass as though some heavy wire object had been set there. Those two There are marks in the grass as though some heavy wire object. Something small and iridescent is barely visible among the indentations. It looks like a scale of some sort. The scale looks a little delicate to pick up by hand. Gabriel cannot take that. There are marks in the grass as though some heavy wire object had been set there. Gabriel carefully uses the tweezers to take the small iridescent scale.
I think it's a snake scale, but it beats the hell out of me what kind.
Gabriel is carrying a scale he found near the crime scene at Lake Pontchartrain. The murder photo. The photo of Mosley reads, "Cop nerd," to Gabriel's eyes. The back of the photo has the following written on it: Schloss Ritter, 1925. The partial pattern from the crime scenes intrigues Gabriel. What does it mean? The
Hi.
Uh-huh.
Look at the voodoo paraphernalia around the body.
No.
This is
Do you know anything about snake scales?
I got some snake root and snake powder, but I order 'em wholesale. I don't handle snakes. I don't like 'em at all.
Can I ask you?
Gabriel cannot.
Hello, Dr. John.
Glad you could return to us, Mr. Knight.
Perhaps Gabriel should learn more about.
Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Goodbye, Mr. Knight.
I want a copy of these strange marks.
The marks are reddish in color and there's nothing on the tomb to operate.
I'm sorry to...
Yeah?
Mind if...
Go.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? I see snakes around here all the time. Most of them ain't poisonous, of course.
Do you know...
I don't mind snakes myself, but lots of folks are afraid of them.
Do you know anything about snakes?
I don't mind.
Got a second, officer?
What can I do you for?
Do you know anything about snakes?
What does this look like? A zoo? Never mind, don't answer that. No, I don't know nothing about no snakes.
Do you know what caprice encore means?
Can't say that I do.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Marie who? Is she the one that hangs out on Conti and Nash?
No. Never mind. Do you know anything about animal masks?
I see plenty of masks during Mardi Gras. Not many animals, though. Of course, there's plenty of animals underneath.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
Can't say that I have, but it sounds dirty.
I'm here to see Detective Mosley.
He's in his office. Go on back.
There's a photocopy machine in the office area.
She's not bad.
It's an inbox.
Excuse me, officer.
Yes?
So, what's it like being a policewoman?
The glamour never ceases.
Excuse me, officer.
Yes?
Could you get me some coffee?
Are you...
What?
Wow. I'm the police photographer, sir. You might be able to find someone around here dumb enough to get coffee for you. But guess what? It won't be me.
Oh, thanks, anyway.
That camera looks professional. There's a temperature gauge on the wall near Mosley's office. The security cage has been removed by the electrician. The gauge is fixed in place.
Detective Mosley. Hard at work, I see.
Knight, come on in. Whew, it's hot in here. Dang, the air conditioning must be on the blink. Are you hot? Man, I'm hot.
Nice polyester. Looks like something Mosley keeps around for formal occasions. Mosley's bookcase holds old magazines and binders. Mosley's Mos, Mos, Mosley's office looks a lot like his room at college. Logs of unsolved cases, perhaps? Mosley must have 1,000,000 of them. Mosley's office looks a lot like his logs of police department memos and other didactic blurbs. Mosley's office looks a lot like his room at college. A microwave. If Gabriel knows Mosley, it's used exclusively for frozen corn dogs. Mosley was one of those beefy guys in his youth. Now he's getting lumpy. Mosley was one. At least he's taken off that horrible coat. The visitor's chair is hard and uncomfortable. It must be one of those sly police tactics to keep civilians unnerved. Either that or a cheap city budget.
Can I ask you about some stuff?
You're the writer. Ask away.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
There's voodoo that goes on in this city, sure. I looked into it a bit at the beginning of this case. But the voodoo stuff found at the crime scenes is all faked. It doesn't have anything to do with the real stuff. I know. I asked some experts. It's intimidation tactics, that's all.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
I told you, don't worry about that part of it. It's all faked.
What can you...
I told...
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Lots. Can you be more specific?
Do you know anything about the killers?
At least 20 people attend the killings. We know this from the variety of footprints found at the scenes.
Footprints? Aren't those as good as fingerprints?
Can be. But we'd have to have a suspect in custody first, and the suspect would have to match one of the few distinct prints we have. Most of the footprints are smudged, trodden over, unreadable. These guys are so casual in their expertise, it's maddening. Like they know we'll never find them.
How many murders have there been so far?
7 murders have so far been linked to the voodoo murders case. Now, the first murder occurred about 8 weeks ago. The M.O. was the same in each murder. Lake Pontchartrain was the 7th.
What kind of evidence have you found?
No fingerprints, a few bare footprints. Found a few fibers, but not many. The weirdest one was leopard fur.
Leopard fur? Describe the crime scenes.
Well, there's the corpse itself, minus the heart. Around where the body was killed, we find marks and flour and blood. There are traces of wax from candles, red and black. Ordinary wax candles, so the lab reports. Also blood and feathers of chickens. Also goat's blood. And plenty of the victim's own, of course.
What's the coroner say?
The victim's heart is always ripped out of the chest and missing. We haven't located a single one of them.
Lovely. Any idea what they do with them?
Don't even want to know. Also, the coroner says some of the victims had heart attacks before the incision. Literally scared to death. The knife wounds are consistent with a long, narrow, wavy-edged knife. Probably a ritualistic dagger.
Any witnesses?
Nope. There's never been a single witness. No one's even heard a disturbance. It's damned weird. Like they just don't want people to see, and so nobody sees nothing.
Know anything about the victims?
The victims are all out-of-towners. We still don't know why.
Oh, nothing.
Sure.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
You and me grew up together. You tell me. It's a pretty nice place, even seeing the stuff I see. You know. The quarter's getting a bit too wild, though. Getting hard to control. Not quite what it was when you and me used to hang here, but... hell, I've never known anything else.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
I'm too sentimental to say anything else about it.
Do you know anything about snakes?
The only thing I know about snakes is I don't like 'em.
Do you know any...
The only thing...
Do you have any idea what Cabri sans cœur means?
Hell no. Is that French? My mother spoke it, but I always had a hard enough time just speaking English.
True enough. What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
That's coming up, isn't it? We get some occasional weirdness in the quarter, but nothing much. Used to have a lot of strange things happen, though, or so I hear.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I don't know much except what I already told you.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Is she that red-headed chick that works at Freddy's?
No.
Then I don't know her.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
Animal masks? You mean like those Halloween masks they sometimes use in robberies?
I don't think so. More like real animals.
Never ran across anything like that.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No. Ha! Is that anything like a Chuck Yeager?
I don't think there's any relation. Do you know...
Animal masks?
I don't think...
Never.
Tell me about yourself.
For the book?
Sure, why not?
Okay, what do you want to know?
How'd you like working on the police force?
Are you kidding? You know I love being a cop. In New Orleans, it's the best place in the world to be one.
What are your plans for the future?
Well, you know, I don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched, but I don't see why I can't be the chief of police of New Orleans someday. I already know the mayor, and my record is one of the best in the department.
I'm sure it's just a matter of moments, mostly.
Yeah, you'll see.
Got any hobbies?
Yeah, making your life miserable.
I'm serious. Don't you shoot or chew or something like that?
No, I'm a freaking ballet dancer. Jeez. Yeah, I was #1 at the Louisiana State Fair Marksman Contest. I play trumpet, too. You know, put your lips together and blow.
How's your home life?
Oh, real funny, Knight. Why don't you just bring in some frickin' salt? Well, you know Annie left me. My home life is shit.
Right. Sorry about that. Just tell me anything at all.
Remember how we used to play monkey in the middle? We used to piss off our senior year teacher. What was her name? Ms. McKelly? You'd act like you were going to toss her an eraser or something. Then you'd throw it to me over her head.
And we used to do it at your grand's, too. Like with the remote when she wanted to watch your soaps.
Yep, and it was a great way to pick up women in the library. Oh, those were the days. Just tell me anything at all.
You know, my doctor told me I've got a little family of ulcers starting. I wish this case would end so I could get some rest for a change.
Just tell me anything at all.
My back hurts.
Oh, nothing.
It's your...
Do you know anything about the patterns around the bodies?
Yeah, weird, huh? All 7 victims had those little marks around them. We got all the marks on file, but we haven't figured out what, if anything, they mean.
Can I see the other 6 patterns?
Sure. People like that kind of stuff, don't they? Might make the book seem more mysterious. Go talk to Officer Franks. Tell her I said you could see the file.
What's the status on the...
It's going. Can't seem to make any progress, though. Sluggish damn case. It's weird.
What's the status on the...
You're as filled in as me.
Have you ever called the hair club for men?
I'd rather have no hair than your hair, Knight.
So how'd you ever find anything in this office? It looks like ground zero.
Hey, I get my job done. I'm a detective, not Betty Crocker.
Trying for a real estate job with that coat?
No. Are you trying out for a janitorial job with that hair?
Are those new shoes? What are those, hush puppies? Kind of a mud brown suede kind of a thing?
Hey, I'm on my feet all day, all right? Is that okay with you?
Mostly. I'm being perfectly sincere.
Yeah, you and my grandmother. Right.
Can I ask you a few questions, ma'am?
I'm sorry, sir, but I really have to finish these reports.
Excuse me, officer.
Yes?
Can you get a file for me?
What file would that be?
The Voodoo Murders file? Detective Mosley said I could see it.
Really? Well, if he said so. There it is. You can look at it all you want, but don't leave this area with it, okay? And no photocopies either, I'm afraid.
Of course. I understand completely.
The police file contains partial patterns from the first 6 voodoo murders. The police file... This is the last page. Those 2 objects would have...
I'm done.
Yeah, thanks.
Can I ask you about... How about getting me some coffee?
Coffee? You want coffee?
Should that surprise you?
Nah, you've always been a caffeine addict. It's just that what we got here hardly qualifies.
So, I'm desperate.
It's your stomach. I'll get you some when we're done talking.
That long?
All right, I'll go now. Don't touch anything while I'm gone.
I think I'll just borrow this badge.
Hey, what are you doing with my coat?
Nothing. I thought I saw something crawling on it.
Just drink this.
Thanks. Tons. I mean it. Can I ask you about some stuff?
You're the writer. Ask away.
I got those photographs you left for me.
Really? Great. What'd you think?
Astonishingly lifelike.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Got any more ideas for photos for the book?
A cop author photo might be nice.
You and me? Together?
Why not? Of course, you'll have to try to tone down your masculinity.
Well, okay. I'll call the police photographer. Franks, come here a minute, would you? And bring your camera.
What did you need, Detective Mosley?
We need a picture, please. And make it a good one, huh, sweetheart?
Sure, sweetheart.
Say, chintzy.
Was there anything else, Knight?
Hold on a sec while I go check my hair.
Good God, Knight, make it fast.
Let me see that file again. Just want to check this machine here.
Those two objects would have... Those two... The part...
Would you just get in here? Hurry up, would you?
Okay, ready.
Thanks, hon. Let me know when you got it developed. The photos, that is.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately.
Can I ask you about some stuff?
You're the writer. Ask away.
Do you know anything?
The only thing...
I'm gonna hit the road.
Have a good one.
I knew you'd miss me, so I came back.
The excitement of seeing you is killing me.
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
Do you have messages for me?
Nope. None right now.
Could you do some research for me?
Sure. What?
I need you to look up a Madame Cazeneuve.
Madame Cazeneuve? Is she related to the murders the same way your friend, Malia Getty, was?
Grace, Cazeneuve's at least 70.
As if that makes a difference to you. Okay, I'll see what I can find. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Do you know anything about snakes?
I told you nothing. I hope you don't think this subject is erotic. It's not.
I'll be back later.
Have fun.
I have this gift certificate.
I'm
It's good for $20.
Really? I'll have to check it out sometime.
You could take this gift certificate with you, if you'll give me a lucky dog.
A lucky dog for a $20 gift certificate? Well, sure. Here you go.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yep, I mind all right.
Why?
'cause A, I don't know anything, and B, I'm busy.
Oh,
Interrogating the little...
you dance pretty well.
Give me some money, then.
I don't have any.
Don't block the view, mister.
You seem to be quite a reader.
Yep.
Did you ever read anything by Gabriel Knight?
No.
Do you do requests?
Got any money?
No.
Something to eat?
No.
There you have it. No.
Hey, come back here. Hey!
The artist is off chasing his errant drawing.
Oh, unbelievable. Rotten luck.
There's her drawing caught up against the hedges. Gabriel can't reach the drawing from where he is.
You wouldn't like a lucky dog by any chance.
Would I? Thanks, mister. You got any special requests? Let me know.
You mentioned something about special requests?
Yeah. You got one?
Can you fit through the bars around the statue?
Can I? Just watch me.
Good. There's something in there I can't quite reach. Come on. Can you reach that piece of paper?
Sure thing. Here you go. Yep. See ya.
This is the last page of inventory. It's a technical drawing of Saint Louis Cathedral. There's nothing written on the drawing.
This belongs to you, doesn't it?
My drawing. How'd you get it?
Oh, it was a bit of a squeeze, but I hate to see you lose your work. I lost my only copy of a manuscript once.
Well, you saved my butt. Let me know if I can ever do the same for you, huh?
Could I ask you some questions? Okay. Do you mind if I
Be my...
Do you mind if I...
Be my...
Say, do you think there's anything you can do with these patterns?
What do you need?
Is there any way you can reconstruct the whole pattern from these partials?
Pattern is probably circular, and there's some repetition in the elements. What is this from, anyway?
You'd never believe me.
Okie dokie. Well, there's... I think there's an area missing. If you could get me any more of these...
I'll see what I can do. I have another one of those patterns.
Really? Let's see. Yeah, this is great. I think there's enough overlap now. I'll give it my best shot. I'll show you what I come up with tomorrow.
Great. I appreciate it.
The confessional is empty, and there does not seem to be a priest behind.
May I help you, my child?
I'd like to make a confession.
All right, if it will make you feel better.
I've had impure thoughts about a woman I met.
Impure thoughts? You mean thoughts of sexual relations?
You could say that, but worse than what you mean.
Worse? You mean extreme sexual relations?
Well, not involving animals or anything.
Oh, well, I see. Perhaps we should just leave it at that. Pray for forgiveness and say 10 rosaries. Is there anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Goodbye, then. Peace go with you.
The kneeler is at the panel behind the mesh window moves from the other side. Gabriel cannot see a way to move that part of the confessional. Potted roses mark the entrance to the house. Tall, narrow shutters provide beauty and protection. The Garden District is famous for its elaborate old plantation homes and mansions. The Garden District. The front door of the Getty Mansion looks unusually solid and heavy. The Garden District is famous for its elaborate old plantation homes and mansions. This particular mansion is impeccably groomed. Gabriel can't get inside unless he's invited. This door is pretty. The knocker is. This door.
May I help you? I'd like to see Malia Getty, please. I'm sorry, but unless you have an appointment or official business, I cannot announce you. I do have official business. Really? Please tell me the nature of your business.
Gabriel doesn't want to
Just as I thought. Good day, sir.
Why use that?
May I help you? I've got important business with Miss Getty. Yes, I'm waiting for some evidence of that, sir.
Why the bad.
May I help you? I've got important business with Miss Getty. Yes, I'm waiting for some evidence of that, sir. Just as I thought. Good day.
The badge says New Orleans Police Department and Detective Mosley.
I've got important business. Yes. My name is Detective Mosley. I'm here on police business. Really? How interesting. Wait here. I'll inform Miss Getty. Miss Getty will see you. Right this way. Miss Getty will be down shortly. Thank you.
What can I do for you, Detective?
The Getty Library is as well put together as Malia herself. Classy, rich, flawless, pure cream.
Beautiful women. They must be relatives.
They are.
Beautiful.
They are.
Modern art?
More or less. It's a Picasso.
Harvard classics. Homer, Virgil. Maybe Malia wouldn't be impressed by a signed copy of one of Gabriel's novels.
Romantic.
I like firelight, Detective.
Genuine lion skin.
I can imagine doing things on that rug.
Excuse me?
Oh, nothing. Undoubtedly proof that there is a God.
Dante's Inferno. Nothing like a little light reading. Ming Dynasty, perhaps? Genuine lion skin.
I can... Oh, nothing. Nice statue, I like it.
Thank you. It's The Rebellious Slave by Michelangelo.
Mind if I ask you a few questions, Miss Getty?
I assume that's what you're here for, Detective.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? Why would you want to know about that, Detective? It's rather silly, isn't it?
There's nothing silly about the voodoo murders.
But that voodoo is faked. That's what I've read in the papers.
That's what the papers say, all right.
But you're not convinced?
No, frankly, I'm not. The police department isn't known for its imagination.
Oh. Well, I can see that your imagination is considerable.
Are you sure you can't tell me anything about voodoo?
I really don't know much about it. Isn't there some place in town that you can find out about that sort of thing? A museum or something?
I believe there is a museum.
Then maybe you should check there.
Are you sure you...
Quite sure.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The murders? Only what I read in the papers.
And what do you read in the papers?
I'm sure you know much more about it than I, Detective.
What do you know about...
The murders?
And...
I'm
Tell me about your life in New Orleans.
The Getty family came to New Orleans in 1800. We worked very hard to get where we are. On the other hand, we've done a lot for this community.
I can believe that. You're doing a lot for me right now. Tell me more about New Orleans.
I'm afraid I don't get out into New Orleans society much. Because of the Getty money, we have slots in the best country clubs and on the best Mardi Gras courts. But I must admit, I hate it. I avoid actually making an appearance unless it becomes absolutely necessary.
I know about those courts. They're very exclusive.
Yes, especially when it comes to people of my race. That's why we don't turn down the appointments. It's a rare opportunity to rub their noses in it. But that's not where I spend my time. I have more important things to do with my life.
That's admirable. Many women would love the chance to get caught up in that kind of life.
I'm not any kind of woman you might be familiar with.
Yes, I can see that. Tell me more about...
I don't know what else you want to hear, Detective. Anything you might care to know about my public life you can easily look up in the papers.
Tell me...
I don't know what...
Do you know anything about snakes?
I'm afraid I quite abhor them.
Do you know anything about...
I'm afraid I...
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I believe it's some sort of local holiday, but I don't know much about it.
What can you tell...
I believe it's some...
Do you have any idea what Cabri Saint-Gare means?
No, I don't. What does it mean, Detective?
That's confidential information, ma'am. Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
I have heard of her, of course, but that's about it.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
Animal masks? I don't know what you mean.
Do you know...
Animal...
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I'm afraid I can't help you with that, Detective.
Can you tell me anything about what happened out at the lake?
I wish I could, but I've never seen or heard anything unusual at the lake, and I do spend quite a bit of time out there.
Can you
I wish I could.
tell me about yourself?
I suppose I don't really have a choice. What do you want to know, Detective?
What kind of things interest you?
I don't have a lot of free time, but I do appreciate the arts. Opera, symphony, ballet, fine art. If you look around, you'll see that we collect African art, for example.
Yes, it's very beautiful.
It is, Detective. It means a great deal to me.
Do you have a career?
A career? Being the head of the Getty family is a 24-hour-a-day job. We have many holdings and many responsibilities, financial and otherwise. The management of our business affairs and properties leaves me with time for little else.
Poor little rich girl?
Believe it or not, Detective, wealth does have its price.
Tell me about your family.
The Gettys? We're a very private family.
How many people are there in your family?
Well, my mother just passed away.
I am sorry.
So am I. She was a magnificent woman. We were very close. I was an only child.
And your father?
I never knew him.
It's hard to believe that any man would leave a woman like you. Or like your mother must have been.
He did not leave, Detective. But that's really none of your concern.
I'm sorry. Go on.
There are, of course, other Gettys in the city. I have a large, extended family.
I see. Do you have a husband? A boyfriend?
I'm very independent, Detective. The women in my family have always preferred it that way.
So, you've never been married?
No, and I never will be.
What about children?
Yes, that is likely. Someday.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I do a lot of charity work around the city, primarily in the prison and reform system. I'm not a professional sociologist, but it does interest me.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I have a business degree from Vanderbilt. I wanted to study psychology, but my family's interests came first.
Oh? Why not something like law, then? Surely that would have been an asset to the family.
Law? Please, I do have some morals, Detective.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
For the record, I'm 28, Detective.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I have a few friends. A woman in my position can't really afford them.
I'd like to hear just about anything.
I try to stay away from the media as much as possible. Last year there was that story about John Kennedy Jr. and I. The phone didn't stop ringing for weeks. I prefer to keep my private life private. I would appreciate it if you would keep my name away from any public association with the police, Detective.
Of course. I'd like to hear just about anything.
I do a lot of charity work around the city.
I would...
As you wish, Detective.
Excuse me, but your eyes are really distracting. I don't think I've ever seen a color quite like that. Brownish gold. It's so deep and rich. Man, if I could bottle that, I'd make a fortune.
Thank you, Detective. That's an interesting observation, though probably not relevant to your case.
A good detective never knows what might be relevant, Miss Getty.
Then you must be truly exceptional at your job. I think this has gone on long enough. You're not really a detective, are you?
Who, me? Well, I am on this case, Miss Getty.
I saw you at the lake yesterday. I thought you must be with the police since you were there, but you don't act like a police officer. Besides, I'm rather certain that the other man said his name was Mosley.
All right, you caught me. I'm not with the police. My name is Gabriel Knight. I'm a writer working with Detective Mosley on a book.
Well, Mr. Knight, now that we've established who you are, perhaps you can tell me the real reason you're here.
Well, I am researching the book, and I thought you might have seen or heard something at the lake.
I don't like liars, Mr. Knight.
Okay, you're right. I really just wanted to see you again. You can be mad at me if you want, but I swear I've never done anything like this before.
Mr. Knight, you've lied about your identity and wasted my time with meaningless questions. If it weren't vaguely flattering, I'd really be angry. You're lucky I don't call the real police. I think you should go, Mr. Knight.
Malia, wait. If you just give me a chance.
I've wasted enough time. I'll have Robert show you out. Robert? Show Mr. Knight out, please.
I most certainly will.
Thank you very much. I had a lovely time. Ah, shit.
It's getting late. Gabriel decides to return home for the day.